I'm going to start recording, so I'm going to do a little introduction here for all the people who watch the recording. Welcome, I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and it is our special Making Contact extended show, if you will. And this is where Mark and Jimmy are really going to go deeper into sharing a little bit about the history of what they've created and how all of you, all of us, can participate. And I want to start with a personal story. Those of you who've watched the show know a little bit about me and know that my wife died 9 years ago. And it was a big deal. It was a big event in my life. And I was fortunate in that I had a lot of experiences with her after she died, coming to me, coming to my friends. And it taught me not to negate the experience, but it taught me that the more I open up my imagination, it's the imagination that allows me to have those experiences. And one of the things that's very powerful about what's happened just in the last couple of days is how many of you have written to us and sent stories about the experiences you've had. We had Kim, who on Saturday night while we were doing the show was having all this phenomena outside her window, and she photographed it and videoed it and sent it to us. And here's the thing: remember that for the longest time, nobody could run a 4-minute mile. And then finally, a man named Roger Bannister did it. And after he did it, the next 12 months, 18 more completely different people were able to do it. And now pretty much a good high school track runner can do it, right? Now that's an example of how our physical consciousness changes. And what Mark and Jimmy have provided through the years of experience that they've been doing this, of having their own experiences and documenting it, it opens the doorway. And so I just want to encourage all of us, let's have open hearts and open minds. Let's be skeptical, but not cynical. Remember, skeptical means well thought out. It means open to all possibilities. And for those of you who have had experiences but have been shy to talk about it, welcome to your community. And for those of you who have been wanting to have experiences, welcome to an expansion in the field of what's possible. That's what's really going on from my perspective. And I feel honored to be a part of it. And we really enjoy hearing from all of you. And so there you have it. And kind of along those lines, before I introduce Mark and Jimmy, I want to share a pretty funny and I think cool thing that happened. So most of you probably watched the show on Saturday Night Live, and they set up the walkie-talkies and they did their thing and they sent out the broadcast, and we waited. We had 5 walkie-talkies all lined up, and we waited and we were looking forward to when we get the response. And I remember saying to Mark, this is going to be like one of those things where a little kid has said his first word and they get grandma on the iPhone or on the Zoom, and the kid's like, come on, Jimmy, come on. And then the moment grandma hangs up, mama, mama, mama. Remember I said that? Well, lo and behold, literally about, I think it was 20 minutes after the end of the show, I checked my cell phone text and Mark sent me this video. And I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did. It's pretty delightful.
So we'll give this a few moments and then maybe we'll call it a night. It's approaching 11 o'clock Pacific time.
2 o'clock East Coast, and we do have East
Coast. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 11:24 on the evening of February 6th. I just finished the show with Scott Katamas and Deborah Giusti on Saturday Night Alive. We had the Making Contact show this evening. And just a few minutes ago, we ended the show. And as soon as we ended the show, this radio that I was attempting to initiate contact with started lighting up. So I just wanted to document this, that contact has been made. And anyway, it's pretty cool. All right. I'll sit here for a second and let this roll for a moment. We got one, it's been chirping every 30 seconds or so. I'll be right back.
Huh?
I have to use the restroom real quick.
All right. Oh, wow. If you could see this. They're going off. Yeah. You got a little orchestra.
Oh my gosh, they're going off now. Wow. There they go. Wow. Well, that guy is not going. Are you gonna go? Hello. So, all right. I'm gonna stop it here. You're muted, Scott.
You gotta love it. Isn't that? I think they have a sense of humor. And I think also one of our presenters actually pointed out a good point. It just shows how honest Mark is, how honest this whole thing is. So anyway, thank you. I want to welcome everybody. We have over 200 people with us, plus all the people watching on Facebook. Welcome. Welcome people watching on Alan Steinfeld's YouTube. We're really happy to have you. And so I want to introduce kind of the two guys that are really going to be running the show tonight. And they have a lot to share. And I want to especially, for right now, I'm going to focus on really introducing Jimmy. So I'm going to put the spotlight on you, Jimmy, while I kind of share people a little bit about you. This is Jimmy Blanchette, and he's really the guy who has been creating this. I'll tell you a little bit about his background. On a professional level, he's a chemical scientist. He's got a solid background in electronics and radio engineering. In the early 2000s, Jimmy made a breakthrough discovery in the field of X-ray fluorescence analysis applied to metals and alloys. And he published 2 scientific papers in a renowned scientific journal and co-authored a book on the subject. He's occupied various leadership roles in different technology companies. He's also a master black belt in Lean and Six Sigma and a black belt in design for Six Sigma. These are advanced statistical and business improvement techniques. But he's also an experiencer who's had many out-of-body experiences since childhood. He was always interested in astronomy and astrophysics. He always knew we were not alone, and he's been reaching out to these civilizations since he was very, very young. And as I learned that today, that really actually made an impression on me, Jimmy, because I think you've been blessed with an assignment that you're fulfilling quite beautifully. So tell us a little bit about how you relate to that and a little bit about how you started doing this at such an early age.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the introduction. Very generous of you. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you to you and Debra and all your team for providing this wonderful platform tonight to enable us to share this information, which I believe is very, very important. In terms of my background, so I started really in the field of radio at a very early age. I became an amateur radio operator at the age of 12 years old. I passed my license at the time. I am originally from Northern Quebec, Canada. I come from really a farmland, Northern Quebec. This is a province that speaks French, so hence my very strong accent. I became amateur radio at 12 years old. And from that point on, I really did that at the time to open myself up to the world, because I was kind of in a very remote location, and I was, seeking to expand my horizons, if you will, and the radio was a wonderful way to do that. And so I started building antennas and making communications all over the world at a young age, and then I, really got interested in, science, because this is all technical and scientific, obviously. Matters. So I became very interested in astronomy, astrophysics, electronics, and so forth. So I kept building antennas, for the major part of 30 years, and work in the field. And here I am today, trying to push this technology as far as I can, and to make it, do something that's going to be beneficial for the world. So that's where we are today.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. And thank you for your dedication, for having the fortitude that even though a lot of what you were exploring, there's a lot of prejudice against or cynicism, and to work as hard as you have to support. And now all of us are really benefiting from what you have discovered and created. So thank you. I'm also going to add to our spotlight. Most of you know Mark. But for those of you who don't, I am going to just share a little bit about his background, and a little bit about what I really have learned about Mark since working with him. In terms of background, Mark's a computer scientist and a Harvard Business School alumni, and he had a face-to-face contact experience that absolutely changed his life, and it shifted Mark's passion and focus to supporting the healing of our planet, world peace, and hosting these CE5 and CE6 events. And in July of last year, Mark produced the Harmonic Convergence 2020, which really has helped to organize and bring our communities together. And that's how I got to know him. In Mark's further history, extremely successful businessman, extremely successful visionary who took technological vision, applied it to business, was creative, and was very successful. But the Mark that I've gotten to work with is so dedicated to all of you, each and every one of you. He cares so much about our community, and he understands that, oh my God, we're living at a time that any of us can have communication with our star family. And he's doing everything he can and has put a lot of time and a lot of money into bringing us together and providing us with the tools to connect with each other on the human level and to connect with the star family. So I really want to thank you, Mark, for your incredible devotion and the price you paid. We don't have to talk about that tonight if you don't want to, but Mark's paid a price for his work. Pioneers often end up with arrows in their back. So I appreciate the pioneering spirit that both you guys have. And I'm glad that none of those arrows have been fatal. So with that, I'm going to remove myself. I'll be here kind of monitoring the chat box and turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you, Jimmy. Again, it's just such a thrill to be here with this amazing human being and to witness the last few years, him being a friend and having the courage to step up into the spotlight and share what he's done. It's just a real honor to be your friend and to be here as a witness. So thank you, Jimmy. I am going to turn it over to you in a moment. But before I do, I want to mention a few things. One, that I have now 7 radios here on my desk, and they're all turned on. They're all on the same frequency, and they haven't made a peep. I want to just prove that they're all set to the same frequency. And if I hit the push to talk button on one of them, you can see they're all lighting up. Let's see. I've got one here that is off. Okay. Now they're on. I forgot to turn that one on. So I've got these all on, and I just want to keep them on during the show. I'm going to keep my mic going. And if we hear one, you'll hear a, kind of a chirp or static. And what I anticipate is we're not going to hear anything until we finish a little bit through the presentation that Jimmy's going to give. And then we're going to do a live demonstration, and we'll be able to continue the presentation and monitor the radios, which is a different format from what we did Saturday night. I waited until the very end of the show to try to make contact, and it was late, and we decided to just wait a few minutes, and nothing happened. So that's what's going to happen. There's going to be a surprise at the end of the show, so please stick with us till the very end. We anticipate going until about 8 o'clock. Then we're gonna stop. But before we stop, we have one major announcement and one other thing that I want to share with all of you. So please stick around for those 2 surprises. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn the show over to Jimmy. He has prepared a presentation. This is going to look a little bit like the one we did Saturday night, but there's a lot more to it. So, some of it's going to be rehashed, but most of it's new. So I am going to get this queued up. And here we go.
All right, thank you, Mark. Excellent. Thank you, Mark, and hi everyone again. So tonight we're gonna talk about communication, and we'll introduce a technique to do communication with non-human intelligences using electromagnetic radio waves. If you want to go to the next slide, Mark. So this, as we mentioned Saturday, this is really the first time that this information is being made public. We had a brief introduction on Saturday. We had limited time. It was a great introduction. And so now we'll go deeper into the subject. The really primary objective of the presentation tonight is really to deploy and introduce a contact modality to enable the experiencers to make their first contact themselves personally with non-human intelligences in a way that's very effective and repeatable, and also really to help the experiencer expand your consciousness. So we'll be introducing technology. We'll talk about a technological aid in the form of radio wave. We have obviously a variety of things we can use to do that. We'll introduce a way, and we'll explain a bit more the background on something that's more kind of high power type of transmissions, which was at the origin really of this, call it discovery, if you will. But also it's important that everyone can access this and can use this technology, very simply. So we're also introducing using simple two-way radios, VHF, UHF radios, in order to establish and make contact, as we'll describe a bit further. This technique, this modality has not been, is not recent of a few days ago. Really, it's been in the work for several years, almost 4 years actually, that this was started. I started that in May 2017, so it's almost 4 years. So it's been in the work for quite some time, and it's been also tested and validated worldwide with experiencers, which I've been working closely with, and with Mark as well, to test and validate the technique. So we have good material in terms of evidence, which we will see in a video very shortly. And I want to also emphasize the fact that even if many aspects of this subject, if you will, may sound a bit bolts and nuts, right? Because we're talking about technology and radios and so forth. Really, what is at the root of the phenomenon is really consciousness. And this is really an important aspect that we'll talk more this evening. But this kind of technological aid, if you will, that we will be introducing works hand in hand with our consciousness. And we'll see how we can, make the most out of it. So in terms of first contact, also you'll see that theme throughout the presentation. So again, we need to look at this the first contact in terms of the broader sense of it, which is first contact first as an individual having the opportunity to make first contact with these non-human intelligences, and also at some point, hopefully, we get to a point where we reach a critical mass and there's a mass first contact or mass contact with humanity. And so I wanted to describe that because we're really looking at a broad sense of the first contact here. Again, this has been in the work for quite some time, and so we will tonight propagate and introduce tools and techniques. And one of the objectives, obviously, is to connect people around the world. There's going to be more coming in the coming weeks and months. And as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, hopefully, as this movement grows and the techniques become more utilized worldwide, this will provide a permission slip to the non-human intelligences to interact with humanity in a bigger way, if you will, in a more open way. So without further ado, I'd like to move forward with a video montage. It is a video montage that's going to last about 38 minutes, and which is a collection really of various video clips that have been collected and documented over the last 4 years, really. Things are accelerating. There's more activity, even more recently. So we see that, and I'm sure Mark is feeling it, and many experiencers in the world are feeling this quickening, if you will. But this is, again, a collection of video clips. It is not a professional production, but hopefully we'll enjoy. And the purpose of this montage is to provide a good visual right at the beginning of this presentation, so the audience can visualize and a good visual of what we're really talking about in terms of interactions with radios and sightings and so forth. So I think the documentary or the mini montage here will do a good job at providing this visual, and then we'll be able to expand further, more on a theoretical side, and we'll have a full-blown presentation, about 20 slides to go through tonight. So Mark, if you want to pick it up from there.
Yeah, so Scott's got the video. He's going to start playing here in a moment. And I just want to mention that we are going to have a Q&A section. There's been a collection of questions that we've gotten from the chat Saturday. I'm also doing my best collecting some of the questions that people are posting in the chat this evening. And we'll get to some of those questions tonight as well. So that's something I forgot to mention. And with that, Scott, are you ready to play the video?
I sure am. Here we go.
All right.
It's because we have a limited view, because we observe the universe and we interpret it with our level of technology.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
And it's very dangerous because we forget that like it's most likely so far beyond what we can imagine.
Right.
We assume that something we think is like not possible or it's magic or whatever, but it's basically maybe just a different way of
Yeah.
communicating.
Yeah, and I can tell you from experience that's true. I've been engaging in something called the CE6 meditation for initiating global contact. And
With Stephen Greer.
no, well, I learned his meditation, which he calls the CE5 protocol.
Oh yeah,
right?
okay, yeah.
We've developed something, Tejbar and a good friend of mine who lives about 20 miles away, Jimmy Blanchette, he developed a way to communicate with extraterrestrials using a radio telescope. And he has one in his backyard that's massive, 150 kilowatts.
Wow.
And it blasts. So he encodes a message into an audio file, and he aims it at the moon and blasts the moon, and that thing reflects
Bounce everywhere.
everywhere. And we actually had him create a special message for the harmonic convergence. It's an image that he encodes in the audio message, and you can decode it with an audio analyzer right on your cell phone. I'll show it to you later. We have this up on the website.
So this is, my little table and my chair where I sit in the evening. And behind is my little tower and a huge antenna, which is pointed towards space right now. So it is very big. It's as big as my house almost. You can see behind, the big palm trees, so it's a big antenna. And big antenna, and I will show you in a little minute how I transmit messages towards space. Here we go. Here it is. This is my radio room, so you can see all the equipment and the computers. So we have the radio here and all the amplifiers and all the equipment. So I'm gonna give an example of message that I send. So when I go to Rose Valley, I have a special message that I created for it. So this is an example here. So we see on the screen, it shows the sentences. In this case, dear cosmic brothers and sisters, humbly requesting close encounters, welcoming you with love and peace, continuing planetary advancement, and then the latitude and longitude is there, and the date and the time in universal time. And the last series of numbers at the bottom is a Fibonacci sequence of number. And each of the lines of the sentence are encoded at the solfeggio frequency. So like the first sentence is at 396 Hertz, and then 417, 528. I'm sure you're familiar with these. These are very known. Often also people use these frequencies for the hue and to meditate. So the entire message is encoded essentially at these frequencies. So when I play it, it's like music, a digital music. So I will close this window here a minute. Okay, so this is the screen of my computer. And I have loaded up the message that I'm going to transmit right now with the big antenna outside. So the system puts out about 150,000 watts of power. That's a lot of power. and it's directed like a laser beam directly at the target. In this case, we're going to target the moon. So we see here the coordinate of the moon at this time. It's 204.9 azimuth and the elevation 36.6. So all I do is target or point the antenna just like a laser beam at the, in this case, at the moon. And I have loaded up the message on the screen, and I'm going to transmit the message, a message of gratitude in this case, a thank you message. So the transmission is going to last about 15 seconds, and you will be able to hear the digital code going. All right, so we're going to start in a few seconds. All right, so transmission starting in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. There we go. So it's already done. So we just transmitted a message of gratitude, and so that's how I did it the first time that I had my first close encounter in Rose Valley. I had transmitted an invitation with coordinates and time and date, and the ETs were there the very first day. So clearly they decoded it immediately. So I transmitted earlier today at the moon of Jupiter, at the Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon, and you know, inviting them for contact tonight. And so I will spend some time under the star tonight. All right, just wanted to show you. So again, this is my little shack here, radio room, and all is well. It's 2:16 in the morning. The radio is very active right now. Welcome, good morning, my dear friends and cosmic family. Thank you for being here.
I am.
Are you here, my friends? Thank you for being here.
We just transmitted Jimmy's message, and all 3 of the transmitters lit up simultaneously. We just got to the house. We're making dinner, and we are.
Way over there.
Is it going off right now?
Yeah.
Magnetometer's going off.
Like crazy.
So we are getting activity. Oh, magnetometer is going off the charts. Oh my gosh.
I have got like
Oh my God, this is really going off the charts.
goosebumps. This is crazy, so good.
This is going off the charts. Look at that.
Whoa.
And you had no activity here when you
It
walked
was
here.
zero, it was flatlined all the way over
This
here.
is like it's peaking all the way, all the way, all the way.
It's going ooh, 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 ooh.
I couldn't even
Oh my
breathe,
gosh.
so like it stopped me breathing. It was just,
Oh, bring your magnetometer here real quick, please.
yeah, let's check and see what.
Let's just make sure that we're not picking up anything
Is
else.
it like those lights?
Oh my God. Put it right next to Kim's so I can see it. Holy, okay.
They're synchronized.
Is it?
Yeah,
Shut those
shut the
lights
light
off
off.
and see if they may be causing.
No, they're still going nuts.
It wasn't picking up anything over there.
I've never seen that.
It's still going off over here. It was completely dead over here.
I know, when you were standing here, nothing.
All the lines just like that came on. Let's see if yours will come on. Hold on. Usually like one will start
No, mine's
going.
picking up signal too.
Bring it over here.
I don't, what's right here?
Oh, look,
Can we
this
turn
is
the light back
doing
on?
it too.
Yeah.
All 4 are coherent now.
So are the 3 on right now?
I got mine on.
Ricky's is doing it.
This is insane. Okay, we got a concert going on here.
So these,
This is unusual.
so mine's going now, I'm getting transmission. Right now, mine's got transmission. Now it's off.
Yours was doing the same as ours. That's
And mine's
know the
dead
tri-
now.
the tri-fields are.
Mine's not picking up anything.
It's a sequence over there.
Yeah.
There they
I can
go.
hear it.
Kim and I had a synchronicity there for some reason.
There it is.
Oh, there's,
Oh.
well, speaking
Yeah,
of the
they're
devil,
all
look, there were
like-
all 3. Oh my God, all 4 of them.
Oh my lord.
This is crazy.
Look at that.
What's that?
We got response as soon
Thank
as.
you. As soon as
Thank
you
you
transmitted.
very much.
We love you. As soon
Thank
as you
you.
transmitted the message.
I think there's more than one up there.
Thank you.
There's 2 different ones flashing us.
30. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hovering now.
Whoa.
Is there anyone who hasn't
We all see it.
Whoa. They're just signaling. Whoa, that's bright. Whoa, thank you.
There's 2 flashing.
I'm taking a few minutes now for my little hike, and so I thought this time I will record what I usually do. I sent kind of a brief recording of that a couple of days ago, but this time I will let the iPhone running while I do the transmission. Radios are very quiet right now, as you can see. I have one here on the left side, and I brought 2 radios here on my right side. So they are on, volume is up, and they're completely quiet at this time. And so I am going to let the iPhone record, and I will pick one of the radio and we'll make a transmission of love and gratitude. And then we'll see what happens. So I'm going to keep, again, the recorder running this time. So I'm going to get set up here in the grass. Here we go. So picking one radio, and I'm gonna decrease the volume on the others while I transmit. Here we go. So I'm gonna be transmitting with this one a manual Morse code message to express love, and then I will keep the recorder going, and we'll see if we have any interaction. So here it is. So I just made a transmission. I'm gonna put the radio back on my belt here. There's a plane passing just right above me because I'm close to the Santa Barbara airport. So okay, I just transmitted I love you so much. Here we go. So we have two radios now active. So we just heard both radios going off immediately after the transmission. So again, I transmitted I love you all so much. That's what I just broadcasted. And the reply came through within seconds. So we even see a change in the pattern here. So this is, you know, these civilizations, they are very responsive to this type of communication, especially if it comes from the heart, obviously, and we hear the reply coming through as we speak. So in any case, I just wanted to share this little experience.
Encoded in this audio message is an image that includes a message and symbols and other information that you can see on the website thc2020.org/ce6. Here we go. Okay, now I'm going to put the radio down and let's see if we get a response. Now I want to note that there has been no chirping or messages received from any of the three radios since I sent that. I'm now going to, whoops.
Frequency mode.
I'm going to turn the volume back up on all three of these. Okay, so let's see if anything happens here. Okay, I'm gonna go make myself another coffee, and I'm gonna let this roll, and we'll see what happens. So far, nothing. All right. Wow. Wow. I'm getting chills. This is amazing. All right.
Getting powerful reply right now. So both radios are active here. So we've got, again, two civilizations interacting right now. So very, very intense interaction. I got to the park, both radios were very quiet, and from the moment that I made a transmission, the reply came through almost immediately. So it's a beautiful day here. I have made a request for a day sighting if it is safe and appropriate, and so we'll see if they can make it happen safely. Very powerful interaction. It's a beautiful day.
So we'll give this a few moments and then maybe we'll call it a night. It's approaching 11 o'clock Pacific time.
2 o'clock East Coast. And we do have East Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 11:24 on the evening of February 6th. I just finished the show with Scott Katamas and Deborah Giusti on Saturday Night Alive. We had the Making Contact show this evening. And just a few minutes ago, we ended the show and As soon as we ended the show, this radio that I was attempting to initiate contact with started lighting up. So I just wanted to document this, that contact has been made. And anyway, it's pretty cool. All right, I'll sit here for a second and let this roll for a moment. We got one, it's been chirping every 30 seconds or so. I'll be right back.
Huh?
I have to use the restroom real quick.
All right.
Oh, wow. If you could see this. They're going off. Yeah. You got a little orchestra.
Oh my gosh, they're going off now. Wow. There they go. Wow. Well, that guy is not going. Are you gonna go? Hello. So, all right, I'm gonna stop it here.
That's amazing. That's just, first of all, what a beautifully created video and what a beautiful job of pulling together a lot of different elements to tell your story, Jimmy and Mark. Thank you. And that last daytime sighting and the way that you really helped us to understand it. Thank you. What was that like for you emotionally, Jimmy? I'm a feelings guy, so I just got to ask you, what was it like for you after you sent out that message and got that response?
Yeah, it is very transformative. It's very transformative. It really affects, the experiencer in a very profound way and really contributes to expand, your consciousness. It's been an amazing ride, all I can say. And I really, I hope and I want, and Mark and I and many others are working for, that everybody, all the people on this planet can do this, because it is really accessible to everyone. No need to have anything special going. It's really accessible, and it's just a matter of having the will and having the intention, the positive intention, and doing this, from the heart, and amazing experience will take place. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Yeah.
I know that you guys have a lot to share, but one real common question, variations that I just really got to ask, because it's coming up over and over and over in the chat box, which is, how are you guys doing with figuring out what the chatter means, assigning any kind of a Morse code like communication system? Because I'd say a third of the questions have been around that topic.
Do you want to speak to that, Jimmy?
Sure. So we have a portion, really a good portion of the presentation more towards the end, that will cover the type of communications, the modalities, and so forth. So we'll cover that a little bit in more detail. But maybe we can say at this stage that first of all, if with the video, and that was one of the reasons why I think it was important to have a visual, is that we see that even though we transmit and broadcast with regular electromagnetic radio waves, the reply that comes back to us, the interactions, are not driven by regular electromagnetic radio wave. And we've confirmed that in many ways. We've done many experimentations around this. And these non-human intelligences are using a technology far, far beyond and advanced to anything we understand at this point. To the point where, as we could see in the video very clearly, we can have like 2, 3 radios or 8 radios sitting one next to each other, identical radios set at the same frequency, and yet the non-human intelligence are capable of interacting with one specific device, while obviously if the interactions will be driven by a regular electromagnetic radio waves, all the radios will be triggered and will be behaving the same way as they receive the same signal. Just like having different, FM radio tuned to the same station, you're going to hear the same radio station. Well, we see that the non-human intelligence are capable of interacting with a device very specifically, which really defies the laws of physics as we know it. So, and in terms of the energy, what we see also is that the interactions that we experience, there are different type of interactions with very, very different energy signatures, as we call them. And very typically, these different energy signatures will behave in a very, very different way from a physics standpoint, where some, for instance, some of these interactions, when they are taking place, you can literally disconnect the antenna. And you can put the radio in a Faraday cage, where Faraday cage does not let any radio wave go in or out, and yet the interaction will still be taking place. Again, defying the laws of physics, and we do not understand, obviously, fully what's going on. There's a lot to it. So, is there information contained in these transmissions? Well, we have slides and a few videos towards the end of the presentation. I don't want to skip that, but we will get to that point and we'll be able to answer, at least provide hopefully some trails to follow to answer this question. I don't know, Mark, if you wanted to complement that.
Yeah.
That explanation.
Yeah, there's some really good video and information in the rest of the presentation that speaks to this question. And there's also a question that people are asking a lot about what frequency are we broadcasting on? And we're going to talk about that because that's a big question and an important question to cover. So, so why don't we bring up the PowerPoint presentation and pick it back up, and we can answer a lot of the questions that people are asking and more questions that I anticipate will be natural for people to ask as follow-on questions. Sound good?
Yes, yeah, that's great. And you know, towards the end, anyway, as we discussed, we have many slides, and so we'll have a Q&A section at the end, and hopefully the presentation will have answered already many of these questions. So we'll just follow the presentation, and hopefully that most of them are answered.
Okay, I'm pulling up the presentation, and what we had decided, Jimmy and I had decided earlier, was to do a live demonstration. So I've got the radios here that I had showed earlier, and they have been quiet. As you know, my well, I had my mic turned off while they were playing the movie or the video, but they've been quiet. You can see that they're still quiet. And what I'll do is do the broadcast, and it's important for people to realize that what we're broadcasting, this audio file, has encoded into it the message that you're seeing on the screen. And the next question people are going to ask, how do you do that? How do you convert an image, a two-dimensional image, into a sound file that potentially could be picked up by extraterrestrial intelligence or non-human intelligence? And the answer to that question is that there's a special program called Photosounder that you can get on the internet at photosounder.com, and it will take any image and convert it into an audio file. And what's then interesting is there's an app you can get for your phone called Spectrum View, and that will allow you to decode the audio file back into its original image. And that's what we had seen a couple of times on the video. So, so I want to make sure everybody understands that that conversion of an image into a sound file is done with software, and then you can play that audio file. So I'm going to bring up the audio file and pick one of my, so Scott, why don't you pick one of my my radios here on the.
All right, I'm going to stop the screen just for a moment so I can see all the colors.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's go with that pink one in the back, because that'll be easiest to track.
Okay, so the red one in the back.
Right.
And what I need to do is turn these down so that we don't get feedback. So I'll do that really quickly. And the audio message itself is about 45 seconds long. And now that if I hold the button, the push to talk, you can see that they're all on. Hopefully I'm not. You can see have the green light on, meaning that they're receiving a signal. This proves that they're all on the same frequency. And now what I'll do is broadcast the message. Okay, so I'll leave that one in front, or I'll actually put it here in the middle. and turn these all back up full volume. And typically it takes anywhere from 1 second to a couple of minutes for me to get a reply. I've not done any radio work today. When I do radio work and I've worked with the radios, then usually they're warmed up. That's what I say, and they'll respond much more quickly. So anyway, we'll wait. It can take, 20 minutes, half hour. Oh, look, there it is, the red one. You see that? Can everyone see that?
Yeah. I heard the chirp.
So we got a response on the red one, and all right. So I am going to keep it. Got another camera. Actually, I'm recording everything on another camera, and my computer screen is now in the way. Okay, there we go. So that we can document this. So we'll continue with the presentation now, and that was cool. We got a response and we picked a random radio, and we'll continue with the presentation. Okay, so that was, so Jimmy is going to just take us through the history of what got him into doing space communication and reaching out to extraterrestrials using radios. So go ahead, Jimmy.
Thank you, Mark. So just a brief history on how I got there. Before first contact was made on May 1st, 2017, which is really the day or the night that I had my first contact. Back in 2013, I became very interested in a communication technique called moon-bound communication. It's also called Earth-Moon-Earth communication, but moon-bound is the more commonly more commonly used. And it is a communication technique which consists really in reflecting radio wave off the surface of the moon, essentially using the moon as a passive reflector and bouncing radio wave off its surface so they can come back towards Earth. The front wave comes back toward Earth, and this way we can establish two-way communication this way, essentially using the moon as a passive reflector. Very challenging. It's a very challenging mode of communication, obviously, which require a lot of power and a lot of very sophisticated equipment and expensive equipment. So I was very interested by the challenge, and I started building up antennas, which I had done all my life, but I started building up antennas to be able to do that. That was, the first prototypes were completed in 2013. I made my first moon-bound communication in May of 2013. And then got essentially wanted to improve this, this prototype, and started building an antenna system called TARP, which stands for Triangular Array Rotatable Polarity. It is the antenna we see here on the screen. It has a triangular shape, and that triangular shape is not an accident. It really provides unique performance characteristics, let's put it this way. So from 2014 to 16, I was really dedicated to set up and develop this high power antenna system to make this moon-bound communication even easier, if you will. And since I've realized over 600 communications using TARP and moon-bound communication using this principle. I had the opportunity to write a couple of scientific papers about it. We'll see on the next slide. The first one was in December 2016, it was published. And the other one was in May of 2017. And the antenna itself was also published or made a cover page of a technical magazine, a German technical magazine at the time, back in 2016. And all that really, at the same time that I was working on these antenna system, my interest for contact work was increasing dramatically. had been very interested in civilizations out of this world for pretty much all my life, and I always felt connected to the universe. But my interest, I was seeing this video of the CE5 groups doing contact work. I got really interested, and I decided to give it a shot. And naturally, it made sense to repurpose this space communication technology, if you will, to this to do contact work. And so maybe you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. These are the paper I mentioned earlier, describing TARP and its performance characteristics and so forth. And maybe go to the next slide also. Here we go. And this is a representation here of the moon bounce communication I was describing a bit earlier. You see here, I think that makes it a bit easier to understand. So we see how we can literally bounce and use the moon as a reflector, and we can bounce radio wave off its surface to communicate with another station somewhere else on the planet. It is a 500,000 mile trip. It's that's why it requires tremendous amount of power and sophisticated and sensitive equipment. And as I was mentioning, this is it made sense naturally that this technology would be repurposed to to do some contact work. I think you have maybe next slide, Mark. So before going further, so yeah, and this is a good representation here of also some of the characteristics of this TARP system or this antenna system. Most traditional radio antenna system will emit radio wave in all directions, right? And that's what we see to the right side of the screen here, the traditional omnidirectional antenna. While this TARP system or this antenna system is really doing things differently. It's really kind of focusing all this energy or this electromagnetic radio wave into like a laser beam, if you will. It becomes like a laser cannon or, electromagnetic radio wave cannon in a sense. And we see here the representation. So the equipment was repurposed to do contact work. And if you go to the next slide, Mark. And so the initial instinct was to create a message, an invitation message for contact that will be broadcasted essentially throughout the solar system using this equipment, using binary code, basic binary code. And this actually video here is really the first transmission I made, or pretty much identical to the first transmission I made back in 2017 before having my first contact. Maybe Mark, you can play that video just to give a sense of how this transmission sounds like. Okay. Again, it's binary code. So this was, thank you. This was really a homemade kind of binary code message that was created with, again, coordinates, latitude, longitude, time, and date, where I had the intention to go and to attempt contact work on a very specific day. This was broadcasted with full power, 150,000 watts of power throughout the solar system. At the time, I had targeted all the planets of our solar system, including the sun and the moon. So I had to do it on different time of the day, of course, to be able to reach all these different bodies in our solar system. And let's remind ourselves also that every planet, many planets have multiple moons. If we take Jupiter, for instance, Jupiter and Saturn, they have a lot of moons. Like Jupiter is 67 moons orbiting around Jupiter and 61 moons orbiting around Saturn. So, and some of them are massive. If we take the moon of Ganymede, for instance, Ganymede is as big as planet Earth, literally, and it's orbiting around Jupiter. So these are all the bodies or the astronomical bodies that were essentially targeted and hit with this transmission. If we go to the next slide. Okay, so the slide prior to that.
Oh, you want to watch?
I think we skipped one. Yes, this one. Yes, this one. Okay. So
It's 2:16 in the morning. The radio is very active right now.
I'm getting
so the little story here. Here we go. So little story behind this. So I, that night that I had set this coordinate time and date, I by myself alone went to in the middle of Los Padres National Park. It's about an hour drive from my location here. And I was actually, that first evening, I was just really scouting a site, more scouting a site where I could do contact work with other people, with a group. I intend to create a group, a C5 group at the time, to do contact work. And so, I didn't have any expectation that my transmission would do anything, quite honestly. But, it was worth giving a shot. But I still went to the site that night and looked at the location. It was a great location near a lake. And I decided just to, set up the chair and try to meditate a little bit, 15, 20 minutes, just to relax. And just before going back home. Again, I was alone there at night. It was, I think I got there at 10 o'clock p.m. or so. So it was in the dark and late. And maybe about 20 minutes into the meditation, the radio started interacting the way we see it on the screen here. This is a very good representation of exactly what happened that night. And the first time that this happened, I thought actually the radio, there was something wrong with the radio. I said, there must be something wrong. The radio had never behaved this way, ever. I had this radio for many months and used it for satellite communication and other type of communication. Radio had never behaved this way. And here I was in the middle of a national park where there was no cell phone signal at all. I was too far from everything. And yet here, Mark's getting a signal here. Is it the red radio that we see?
Yeah. It's
Excellent.
been going off since you've been talking, but I don't want to interrupt you.
Awesome. So yeah, and so 20 minutes into the meditation, the radio started going off, and I did not click on the moment what was going on, quite honestly. I was very intrigued by what was going on, but I didn't make anything of it. I said maybe it was fairly chilly outside. I said maybe electronic is being affected by the temperature. I mean, we try to rationalize these things, of course, and went back home. And was still very intrigued, and I kept the radio with me all week. That week, I put it under my shirt and kept it on to see if this radio will behave again the same way. If this will be some kind of phenomenon or something wrong with the radio. And yet the radio stayed completely silent while I was going in town at the bank, at the grocery store, where there's a lot of possible interferences in electronics, right? Nothing happened. Went back to the contact site again, did the same protocol, transmitted coordinate times and date, went back there, and the same thing happened again. How could it be possible that radio goes off in the middle of a national park again, while it stayed quiet in town and city where there's interferences? And then I started clicking what was happening. I started understanding what was really happening. And it really snowballed from there, and started having sightings after that, and so forth. So that's really how it started, and that's really the brief history of this, how this all started. Maybe we can go to the next slide, Mark. Okay, so we've been covering quite the TARP system now, right? It's again a high power system, sophisticated. However, one does not need to have that kind of equipment or technology to make contact using electromagnetic radio waves. And that's why we, this technology, this technique was, in a sense, modified or reformatted to accommodate something smaller. So, why not transmitting these small radios, for instance, right, that we're using, these handheld VHF, UHF radios? Would it work? Well, this slides, I think, describes it really well. it is really possible, and it also works to do the work or to do this transmission using the small radios like Mark is having on his table here. The reason being that, and most people do not know that, is that although on the Earth, when we utilize this technology, the small radios, the signal can travel a few miles, maybe 10 miles or 2-3 miles, depending on the terrain, depending on the landscape, the surrounding, mountains and so forth. However, in free space, the signal, even from a small handheld radio like that, will travel tens of thousands of miles into space. It will actually reach the moon and far beyond the moon. And most people don't know that, but it is true. So if you take a radio like the transmission that Mark did earlier, that transmission reached the moon and beyond. So, so in that context, it's kind of makes sense that if there are non-human intelligences out there that are monitoring the activities on the planet, that, or if they have probes around, that they will pick up the signal and decode it. And what I've learned, obviously, from my own personal experience when I had my first contact experience, is that the reply came through the very first attempt. So there are quite massive implications to this, because here I was transmitting with a homemade binary code kind of algorithm, and immediately that signal was picked up and decoded and acted upon because the ETs interacted back. Now they interacted in a way that defies a lot of physics, with not utilizing regular radio waves, but they still interacted. So clearly these transmissions are clearly heard and decoded. And one could argue that they may be decoded instantly. And there may be technologies out there to monitor every signal, every type of signal emitted from planet Earth for whatever reason. So again, this is hypothetical here, but that's the implication of having a reply after the first attempt. So the small radios we describe will travel really far. TARP obviously has a longer reach, will cover the entire solar system, and will cover a few billion watts through space. And we see Mark is showing the radio here interacting. And so TARP will obviously cover, will have a broader reach. But one could, postulate or hypothesize that if planet Earth is being monitored, that they are non-human intelligences that are not far at all, that may be surrounding the Earth, cloaked or close to the moon, and these, non-human intelligence will pick up the signal immediately. So this slide here shows the radio that can be utilized. Again, a simple 1 to 5 watt of power will travel tens of thousands of miles. This hardware is available to the general public. These types of radio, some types of radio are called family radio service radios, available to order, available to the public. One big advantage, obviously, of this type of communication is that you can carry the device with you anywhere you go, and you will experience interactions, at different locations, but you don't need to be necessarily under the stars at night and so forth, right? You can carry the device and having interaction anywhere. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Jimmy, we're approaching 7:36, and I want to give time for people to ask questions, and the radio, the red radio is responding. So if you don't mind, why don't we, move this along and, really quickly. I think one of the things that we would want to cover is this video confirming that they're not using radio waves to interact with these radios. Clearly, this radio has been chirping and none of the other radios are chirping. So how is it that they're interacting with just this radio? And confirming this is this video that, let me show you this video again. This video of the microwave oven test. So,
yes. So yeah, this is a good one here.
Okay, so if we press the button here on the side, we get the regular radio, So here we go. And so the frequency 95.1, we'll turn up the volume, then we put it in a microwave. And the reason why we put it in a microwave is that the microwave has a Faraday cage. You see the door here? All this material is to keep the wave to get in and get out. So and now we lose the radio signal completely because the radio is inside the microwave, which is inside a Faraday cage. We open it and we get signal back. Here we go. So the radio is in a Faraday cage that is a microwave, and the interaction is still ongoing. So putting the radio in a Faraday cage, this is a microwave, and the interaction is still ongoing, despite the fact that the radio is contained in a Faraday cage, which does not let any radio waves going in or out. Okay, I put the radio, which is interacting right now, without antenna in the microwave. And the microwave is nothing less than a Faraday cage. And as we can see, the interaction is still ongoing. Again, the radio does not have an antenna and is inside the microwave, which is not letting any radio wave go in or out. As we can see here, the door has a material that prevents any radio wave to get in or getting out, and we saw that the radio was still interacting inside without antenna. Here we go. So this demonstrates again that these interactions are not driven by any conventional radio waves as we know it.
Okay.
So,
and there's been questions about could they be encoding their own messages in these replies that we're getting? And Jimmy, why don't you speak to that?
yes, so yeah, this is an important question. Obviously, is like, are there messages? Is there information contained in these transmissions? We have a slide, Mark. We have a video actually that I'd like to show. You know, we hear these interactions like this kind of white noise, this going on, right? And is there information contained in this? So to illustrate that, put this montage together, which shows, like, you know, the appearances can be very misleading. And so what you will see in this video montage here, and I will let it play, is a short burst of white noise or static, very short burst, like we hear on these radios, right? So we're going to hear the short burst at the beginning of the video, which represent a chirp, like Mark is getting on his radio, and then see what happens. So we just heard the fast burst. Now let's see what can be hidden if we slow down this burst tremendously. So what we just heard is white noise, and there's information, there's a message encoded in this white noise. You can imagine now that if we we speed up this transmission we just heard for about 30 seconds, if we speed it up to a fraction of a second, what we will hear is a chirp, like Mark is getting on his phone, on his radios behind, like a just like that, right? But if we slow it down, there's information, there's a message buried underneath it. So this is to represent that information can be contained even in white noise and even in these transmissions, and it's really real. So I don't know, Mark, if you want to comment further about it.
No, we haven't had a lot of time to analyze these messages. Although Jimmy has done some of the some analysis, and he's done videos. You've done the one where you decoded the 8 tones, right, Jimmy?
That's correct. And so in one of the energy signatures, there are tones, very specific frequencies that were embedded in these transmission. I used a simple spectrogram, basic spectrogram analysis to find that out. And using a simple app, since I had decoded these tones and knew the frequency, I replicated this energy signature, if you will. I replicated these 8 tones that are contained or buried in that energy signature. And I rebroadcasted these as well. And to my surprise, every time that I rebroadcasted these tones, I got a reply back, typically within 30 seconds to a minute. A very short burst, but a reply with the very same tones that I had broadcasted and synthesized. So this was quite amazing.
And I'll just play what that sounds like. This is the synthetic 8 tones that Jimmy created out of the analysis that he did on one of the transmissions he received. So this is what it sounds like. And I would pick up my radio and broadcast it right now. But that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So there are videos also, and we don't have them queued up for tonight, but maybe for another show or another time. But you know, we have that documented also on video, the transmission of these tones and the reply. And I think you know, I have over 40 to 50 video clips of these replies, are very consistent and repeatable over time. So this was, you know, pretty powerful confirmation. So there's information. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to put up this slide since we're running a little late. I just want to share the radios that we have been using in the experiments. Most of the ones that we are using are the Baofeng, but in Canada, those are not allowed. And so there's a Motorola here, the T100 Talkabout is a very inexpensive radio. It only broadcasts on the family service radio channels. There's, I believe, 22 channels that you're limited to. But Jimmy and I both have tested with that radio, and Jimmy's had success with that radio, and he's actually sent me video of it. And I've tried to give you some idea here in this chart of the price range or price points for these different radios. This UV S9 Plus just came out, and Amazon sold out of them. But they're the new model. They're inexpensive. They're half the cost of the previous model, which is the one on the far left. And that's actually the red one here that I have that Scott chose. I have a yellow one here too. This is a yellow model of that same, or a yellow version of that same model. And then the, I'm sorry, this is the UV5, R5 Plus. And I have it mislabeled there on my slide. So that's the red one again that we just heard. now we got two of them. That's the first time we've had two of them go off at the same time. To help people understand what the family radio service channels are, here are the 22 channels on the right. And the actual frequencies are listed in the second column for each one of these channels. And what's important about FRS channels is that anybody can use these channels. Doesn't require a operator's license like a ham radio does. One of the reasons why these radios are not available in Canada is because you're supposed to have a license to use these if you're not using them for these specific frequencies. And you can configure the station or the channel, the frequency on this to be an arbitrary channel rather than the 22 listed here. So that's something we're going to be talking more about in a future show. We're going to educate people on the proper way to legally operate these. We don't want to create a problem within our community, and we want to educate people so they don't get in trouble. And we just want to be good citizens as we do this. So that's what we're attempting to do tonight, is begin that process. In the interest of time, it's 11 to 8, and I think it'd be really good for us to talk about some of the questions people have. And one of the questions somebody had was, which radio would we recommend if you can't get a Baofeng because of the limitation? And the Motorola was one. Any radio that you can get. There's some radios that are marine time radios, and those will work as well. I have one of those that I've tried. They use a different set of frequencies, but you can use those. And if you get there's a operator's license for GMRS frequencies that it costs about $40 to get the license. There's no requirement. You just have to submit an application with the FCC, and I have mine. And so I can operate at higher frequencies with higher power than the family service radio frequencies. And I encourage people to get a GMRS license because that will give you the ability to work with the stations or the frequencies at a higher wattage power output. There was a question earlier somebody had about why are the ETs not just showing themselves? Why are they operating, kind of in this aloof way, rather reclusive way? And it is my belief and my personal experience that a face-to-face contact, and even seeing a ship, my first contact experience was seeing a ship materialize out of thin air above me. And it's such a shock. It wasn't a negative shock. In fact, I was elated when I saw the ship because for me, it answered this burning question that I wanted an answer to. And that was, are we alone or not? And I found out we are definitely not alone. They're right here. But because I was so excited about it, and when I returned home, I began telling my family and my friends, and I'm really enthusiastic. They literally thought that I was that I had been drugged and that I had been hallucinating and that I wasn't grounded, that I was actually having some kind of, mental breakdown because I couldn't sleep. Now you have to keep in mind that not long hours after my sighting, I happened to have a face-to-face contact. So that was rather unusual. for most people that I think have a sighting. It's not just hours later that they have a face-to-face contact experience. So I was dealing with that. But looking back on my experience, it is a bit of a cautionary tale that you really have to be careful about how you handle this and how you approach your friends and your family with, you know, the knowledge or the experience that you have. And I think that for most people, for those of you that are on this program, I don't think if you saw a ship that you would freak out and people, your friends would necessarily think that you were freaking out. But I do think that the extraterrestrials side on the side of caution, and they don't want to create problems for you. And by working with the radios, it's a way for establishing contact that's repeatable, that's demonstratable to your friends and family. It gets them engaged in a way that might pull them into, you know, the process of having a relationship. And I can tell you, these radios do talk to you, and not necessarily through words, but energetically. There's something happening here, and you know, Jimmy can speak to that as well.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit, do you mind, Mark, to put the slide 17, the one about the type of request? It's called transmission modalities and type of request, because it's such an important slide, probably one of the most important slide that I'd like to go through briefly here without taking too much time. This is an important slide here because while we see to the left the type of modality, so we can, you know, broadcast Morse code, binary code, even music. So one can literally meditate, for instance, or broadcast music while trying to connect through their consciousness with these beings, right? So we got this technological aid, and we got consciousness, and we can combine both. You can use your own voice as well. Absolutely works. Now, the type of requests are important here. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, making requests for sightings and so forth, but this can be much more profound than that, right? So you can literally have healing experience with this. And I experienced this myself personally, or even out-of-body experience. I also made a request back in 2019 for an out-of-body experience, where the request actually was asking for assistance for an out-of-body experience in which I will have the full memory or recollection of that experience. So that was the very specific request. I was obviously not expecting anything to happen. And that very same evening, while I was fully awake and aware, I was not sleeping, fully awake and aware, my energy body was essentially extracted from my physical body, and essentially the request was acted upon exactly as requested. It was the most profound experience of my life, literally. So this is to show that there are many possibilities to this, and it's not only for sightings, can be for healing as well, doing energy work and so forth. So there are many possibilities to this. And again, this is just technological aid to enable the expansion of our consciousness. So really the sky is the limit.
And one of the modalities you had there was Morse code. And I just prepped, I turned the other radios down. I want to do a very quick Morse code message. This is going to be love and peace to all. And then I'll do this, I'll set the radio back down, and then Scott, you can share with people. I just want to demonstrate that Morse code also works. Okay.
I just want to come in for a couple minutes. We have almost everybody who came into the show we've only, what I'm trying to say is we peaked at 225 people in the Zoom room and we still have 212. So I don't think there's a lack of interest, even though we're close to 8 o'clock. I'm certainly fine with going later and answering more questions. I do want to say a couple things. In terms of why isn't there a mass appearance? Well, I'm a big Star Trek fan. And we, for those of you who are Star Trek fans, know about the Prime Directive. And you know, there's a lot of actual truth that comes across in things like especially Star Trek. Star Trek has always been very future vision, and a lot of what Star Trek pointed to happens or has happened or will happen. And the whole idea of the Prime Directive is that those cultures that are not of this earth, that are more evolved than we are, they need to let us evolve in our own natural way, right? So there is that, you know, and I learned an amazing thing. When my wife was still alive, we were actually on our honeymoon, and one of the places we were in was a beach in Turkey. And as it just so happened, that particular beach is where baby loggerhead turtles are born. Now, bear with me, you'll see where I'm coming from with this. And we happened to be there just as the time of the year when these baby loggerhead turtles hatch and have to make their way to the water. What happens is mama turtle much earlier comes, she buries her eggs, she gets out of the water, goes all the way up, buries the eggs, goes back into the water, and that's it, she's gone. And at a particular time, the eggs hatch, and these little turtles have to be able to break their own egg, dig through the sand, find the ocean, and make their way to the water. Now, human nature, we would want to help them because some of them really struggle. They really struggle, but they need to build their strength as they march across the sand to the water, because if they don't build enough strength in their legs and their arms, they won't survive once they get in the water, the tides and all of that. So there were people from Environmental Protection, World Wildlife Fund, making sure that we wouldn't pick them up and put them in the water. You know, it was like it was an example of the Prime Directive, and we had to watch as these little guys really struggled to make it to the water, but we couldn't interfere. Otherwise, we actually would be hurting them. It was a great lesson for me. And so that's one analogy just to keep in mind. The other thing I want to say is that we all have a right to our belief systems. And obviously there's a very large percentage of our world that believes in ET and wants to experience ET. And that's you guys. And here we go. Here's how we can do it. And there's also still a very large percentage of the world that it would interfere with religious beliefs that they have that would be too shocking. And so we have to honor that we don't have to jam it down those people's throats. They get to have their experience of reality while we get to have our experience of reality.
Exactly.
So, more to mention.
Well put, Scott. Very well done. And I that's why, to me, the radio is so well suited for those of us that are ready to take that initial step for first contact. It's a way to do it in a very personal way. It's one in which it's non-threatening. I call it a benign contact experience because, you know, if there's somebody in the room who's uncomfortable with it, you know, it's not scary. It's not like seeing an ET, and you can never get that image out of your head. It's the monster under the bed thing. But with the radio, you can always say to yourself, well, there's something, you know, some reason that it did that or it does that. Maybe it's broken or whatever. But those that want to continue working with the radio and continue to establish and grow that experience and relationship with whoever's talking through the radio, they, you know, that's, you know, for them, they're ready for that. And so people can work at their own pace.
Yeah. I want to mention one other thing, if I could, and that is we are building community here. And so I want to just let people know about a couple of ways that we can continue getting to know each other and building community. This Friday night, there's going to be a wonderful show that I want to invite everybody to. It'll be at 7 o'clock Pacific time. And it's a collaboration between the wonderful Zenka Caro. Maybe we'll even bring Zenka up, make her a panelist so people can twinkle her. Zenka puts together these wonderful programs through Exo Metaverse, and everybody should join Exo Metaverse. It's a wonderful way that we're building community. And so she's collaborating with a show that I do every Friday night called Straight Talk. And so this Friday night, we're going to have Mark Sims and also Grant Cameron. And Grant, of course, is an amazing researcher. He's got presidential knowledge of UFOs. And so it's going to be a really special event. And you can watch it live on Facebook, or you can register, and you can see the link, and I'll put the link into the chat, into the Zoom room here as well. I'll also read it. The registration is bit.ly/EXO-Second Fridays, and it's at 2ND Fridays. And I'll put that link in the chat box. And this is going to be actually every second Friday night. There's going to be an EXO program that will be broadcast through Love Coach Academy, my organization, and will be part of our Straight Talk show. So we really want to encourage all of you to join us. And then I think I'll bring Mark and Jimmy on, because I think this would be a good time to share about what we're planning to do in addition. Mark, do you want to share that good news?
Yeah, we are going to be starting a new program called Making Contact, starting on March 7th at 3 p.m. That's a Sunday. And that is going to be our first real attempt to start a global contact movement. And the way that'll work is that people will join by Zoom, and they'll have their radios, and Jimmy and I will create a unique message that everybody can send out at the same time. So we'll broadcast the audio file live on Zoom, and all you have to do is hold the radio up to the computer speaker and hold the button to transmit the message. And this will go out simultaneously around the world. And we're gonna also encourage people to take video and share it as soon as possible while we're on the show. Last Saturday night, there was a woman who was in New Hampshire named Kim, who was actually having a contact experience outside of her window, and she was sharing the video with us. We just couldn't put it up on the screen, but we have multiple YouTube videos now of what she recorded, and it's a classic CE5 recording of a ball of light or orb up in the sky, and that I think could go viral and be very exciting for us to share what each other are experiencing in the sky and stream it live on Zoom. I think this is the kind of thing that can accelerate global contact. And so we're going to start that again March 7th at 3 p.m. Pacific time. That's 6 p.m. Eastern time. So people on the East Coast can participate. It won't be too late for them. And we're going to see how that goes.
And we'll, of course, send out an email. We had 550 of you registered for this program tonight, and all of you will get a recording of the show. So that's really cool. And we will send out an email promoting the March 7th event. And of course, all of you should always be watching Saturday Night Alive, because we always, of course, make lots of announcements. And that's how to keep track of all the amazing things going on in our world, in our community. I'm going to put the spotlight on Zenka. Hey, Zenka, you do such a great job. So she didn't know I was going to promote her to panelist and put the spotlight on her. But tell us a little bit about Exo Metaverse.
Yeah, Exo Metaverse is a consortium of a bunch of different organizations, and we're centralizing some high-tech tools to accelerate the process of contact for the world. So teaching people how to do it, and there's all different ways you can do it, through meditation, through your dreams, all different ways, and just trying to really get the movement going as much as possible and unify it, because I think, you know, as our numbers grow, they'll grow more exponentially, and that's the idea. So we welcome everyone who's here tonight, and we're excited for you guys to share this with your friends. And this is such an amazing citizen science project that's being unleashed right now. You know, March 7th, be there. It's going to be amazing, right?
Thank you, Zinka. And she does a lot of great work. You know, one last thing I want to say, then I'll turn it back over to Mark and Jimmy for more questions. What's beautiful about Mark, about Jimmy, about Zenka, about this community is that as fascinated as we are with our star family, we're all really all about being in our hearts and creating more love in the world and creating peace. And so I just want to acknowledge that it is Valentine's Day week. And so, of course, we're going to do a special Saturday Night Alive that's dedicated to love. And so this week's show is all about the most important love of all, the greatest love of all, which is self-love. You know, it's not just about being in a couple and Hallmark Hall of Fame cards and chocolates. A lot of us are single, or a lot of us are in unique forms of relationship. And so I think more and more we're recognizing that love is not confined to a romantic partner that we may or may not have, but love is learning how to treat everybody with love. And we start with ourselves. Self-love is not selfish. The more we love ourselves and fill up our cup, fill our gourd, the more that we have to give. Because the truth is, it's our nature to want to contribute to the well-being of others. So we've got a great group of people, as always. My old friend Margot Anand, who literally wrote the book on sacred sexuality, is joining us. Andrew Harvey, who I believe was one of the most important visionaries of our time. And then the next generation, Kamala Devi and Michael, Dawn. As always, we've got great music. Johanna Beekman, Ian Stone Matthias, Sister Stone, and Magic with Paul Draper. So definitely join us for Saturday Night Alive. We opened the early Zoom room at 5:30. We're gonna have a great chat with Margot. And then of course our regular wonderful show. So thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody about that. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Mark and Jimmy.
If I may maybe answer one question I saw on the chat, in the chat room. There's a question that is it repeats itself often. It's a question of frequency, right? The question people ask, you know, which channel, which frequency should we use, and so forth. There's no specific frequency really that's needed. Any frequency will work. The non-human intelligence will, if they want to, they will interact with whatever frequency you use. So do not worry about that. Just make sure you have the right equipment, that you operate lawfully, you know, within the rules and regulations of your territory, because these rules and regulations change, you know, from one country to another often. But there's no specific frequency. So wherever you're going to be transmitting on, they will follow you where you are.
And then I just also wanted to mention that Zinka posted the link for the Friday night show with Grant Cameron and myself. So, so maybe those of you who are wondering where to register for that, they can search the chat, and maybe Zinka can even put it up again. There was another question, and I'm sorry, I think the gist of it was, how are we decoding messages? And there's an app on the phone that I recommend everybody getting. I meant to mention this at the beginning of the program. It's called Spectrum View. And I have a screenshot of it if I can. No, that's not it. If you give me a second. Well, I had a screenshot of it. Let me, okay, I'll just share this website. It's oxfordwaveresearch.com. And if I can share my screen, there it is. So this is an app you can download for your phone. And what it does is, one of its capabilities is rendering a spectrogram. And a spectrogram is basically a picture of frequencies plotted on a two-dimensional screen where color signifies intensity or loudness, and the y-axis represents the frequency, and the x-axis is time. So I'll just show you how this works. I did have it up on my screen. So here it is. It's playing on my screen, and what I'll play is the CE6 message. And so I just, played part of it, but it will plot the spectrogram, and you can see the words are in there and the pictures that are encoded in the audio file, and there's a special program for encoding an image into an audio file that you can then play. To decode, you can use a tool like that, and Jimmy has done that very thing. And there's one particular video that really Jimmy did a great job creating. And if you give me just a second, it's not that long, and it will it will really make a good. Here it is. I have it right here, and so I'm going to share this. So he's showing these bands of high intensity at specific frequencies, and he's isolated those on the screen here. And what he discovered is when you compute the digital root of each of those frequencies, they all add up to the number 9, and in two frequencies or two cases, they added up to the number 3. And I'm going to stop it here because I'll just, this is a longer video, but this was the signal that he created the 8 tones synthetic message for that he and I both used to initiate contact in our experiments. So that's one of the ways that you can analyze and decode a transmission received through these radios. The other thing I want to introduce people to is this term that Jimmy came up with called signature. When you use these radios often enough, you'll begin to recognize patterns, specific energies and patterns. And it's almost like the radios and the sounds they make have personalities. And we call these signatures. And the signature that we got from Saturday night was something I'd never heard before. I sent it to Jimmy that evening after the program was over, and he agreed. He had never heard it. And when we listened to it, it sounds like applause. And so we both felt that that's in fact what they were doing. They were applauding me and Jimmy for our first broadcast coming out publicly to share this information. What, you have anything to say, Jimmy?
Well, thanks, Mark. You described it really well. Yeah, one more thing I'd like to add. We mentioned earlier that the nature of these interactions are not electromagnetic kind of radio wave, right? It's something different. And one aspect that transpires from this is that it seems, based on the experiments that we've done, is that the radios sometimes don't seem actually to be receiving a message or an interaction, but there seems to be transmitting this. There seems to be an energy transfer from the radio itself. And we see that because we can actually pick a radio that's interacting and take another radio and touch it, and that other radio that was not interacting will start interacting, like the energy is being induced into that device, which suggests that the mechanism behind it is far, far beyond, much more profound than what we comprehend. But it's not only energy received, it seems to be energy being transferred to the experiencer. So that's pretty profound. There's more obviously work to be done on to understand all this, but this is pretty significant.
There's a question that Tisha has. Jimmy or Mark, does a person's frequency affect communication, for example, after meditation or singing? And the answer is definitely yes. I can attest to this. After I meditate or after just being in a good mood and projecting that love energy, I like to build up a feeling of joy, and harmony and unity with our star family. And when I do that, I have much more success. I've done experiments with the radios, and based on what I send will have an impact on the response. For instance, when the thing that usually has the best response is when I send out the Morse code, love, love, love. I've had my whole radios go crazy, and I've got videos of this that I will be making public. These are hour-long radios that I need to edit and shorten into 5 or 10 minute length mini videos. So I'm in the process of doing that with my collection of radio experiments that I've filmed. So I'm going to be making that available. There's a new website that Jimmy and I and Zinka, as Zinka's been helping me with, called ce6.world. It's just the beginning of a website. It's actually live right now. If you go to ce6.world, you'll see the beginning of a website. There's not much there right now, but we intend to populate that website with resources, videos, audio files, testimonials, and this is going to be the website that we're going to have our consortium members, located on. We're going to support them so that you can go to one place, see all the consortium members, click on their logo, and it'll take you to their website. And we're going to try to support this global community and grow it. But ce6.world will be the place where, if you want to be part of a global initiative to participate weekly or at a minimum monthly per our Zoom room, this is what CE6 is all about. And we want those communities out there that are already established to participate. And that's how we see this happening.
All right. I know that there's so many other questions. And what I'm thinking is maybe, guys, we can review if there are any significant questions that you didn't get a chance to. Maybe what we could do is put those questions and answers into a form that I'll send or we'll send along with the recording to everybody. How does that sound?
Yeah, and there was one question, Mark and Jimmy. They said, what do I do once I get my radio if I'm a beginner? So maybe on your website, they could play that sound or just let them know.
Yeah, so we're gonna, you can go to ce6.world, and in the next day or two, I'm gonna have at least the audio file. There is a place that you can download it. I have a SoundCloud account, and I have the CE6 message there. It's
also on the website, the CE6, yeah, up, yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, on this page that I just shared.
Okay, great.
At the bottom, yeah.
Oh, good. So there it is. You just added the link. I wasn't even aware that that was there yet. I've got a web developer who I've been giving tasks to, and he didn't tell me that he completed that. So thank you, Kazi, for doing that. And there will be much more in the coming days. This website is going to be a big focus of my attention. And then I've got Friday night on the EXO Metaverse with Cameron, Grant Cameron. And then on the, the other thing is Whitley Strieber has invited me to be on Dreamland, his podcast, which will be February 19th. So I'm very excited to be a guest on his show, and we'll be talking about the radio contact modality. And he's just ordered his radios today. And so he's going to try this out for himself, and he's very excited about it, as am I.
That's great. Well, all right. Thank you, everybody. We still have 187 people watching right here directly in the Zoom room, plus God knows how many hundreds of thousands on Facebook. And I also want to acknowledge those of you who are going to watch the recording, the replay. Even if you didn't watch this live, everybody, if you're hearing our voices, you are all precious. You're all part of this beautiful global peace tribe that's coming together. So join us for our upcoming shows. Thank you, Mark and Jimmy, for your incredible dedication. Thank you, Zinka. Everybody needs a Zinka. God, you know? Behind every great Mark, there is a Zenka. So thank you, everybody. Have a really beautiful evening, and take this opening and go out, tune in. If you've got your radios, play with the radios. And, as we've seen, sometimes they chatter like crazy. And sometimes it's just like little bits, just little acknowledgments. And so I had a wonderful teacher, Bruce Joel Rubin. He wrote the movie Ghost. And he said, enjoy your spiritual experiences, enjoy your metaphysical experiences, don't make a religion out of it, and don't get lost in trying to interpret any of it. Remember, it's all a great mystery. And so it's important to keep that spirit. It's human nature. We want to figure it out and understand it all. But let's be like Rumi. Let's just stay in the great mystery of all of this. Because it is ultimately a beautiful and grand mystery that we get to all experience together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Scott. That's a great way to wrap it up. And thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Zinka. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everyone, so much for being here tonight.
Incredible presentation, Jimmy and Mark. Wow.
All right. Good job, everybody. See you Friday night. Good night, everyone.